Okay, Rem, we are now live, or not live. Well, you and I are live, but when people watch
Indeed, we are.
When people watch this video, they will get the replay of this. So I'm going to dive straight into my introduction, Rem, and we're going to take it from there. Here we go. All warmed up. Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome to this week's episode of the Podiatry Legends podcast designed to help you feel, see, and think differently about the podiatry profession. With me today is a good friend. His name is Rem Jackson, and he is all the way from Las Vegas, depending on where you're from. Rem has a business called Top Practices, and he also has one of the most amazing mastermind groups in podiatry. So, Rem, how are you doing today?
Tyson, I couldn't be better. I'm talking to my buddy, and it's just great to be with you.
So we go way back to 2013, where I met you in Nashville, Tennessee. You were running a mastermind. What do you call it? It's the Top Practices Summit is the title.
Yeah, we have an annual conference every year that is called the Top Practices Summit. Correct.
And you get about 300 podiatrists there from memory.
Yeah, it's in the 250 to 300. This year, we're running 40% ahead of registrations at this point than we have in our entire history. So I think people are ready to get back together and work together, roll up their sleeves. We're excited about it, and it's here in Las Vegas, in downtown Las Vegas, in October 8, 9, and 10 this year.
Yeah, so I
wish you could make it.
Yeah. If we're allowed to leave the country, I would be there. And it's one of those things too. I think with the live events at the moment, I think so many people have gotten used to doing things online, which we've gotten used to doing it, and there's a lot of value from getting education online. But I think when there's been events that people have really, really enjoyed, and maybe they've gone a year and they've missed a couple of years, then gone another year, since it's live events have been taken away, I think when a good event comes on and everyone knows how good they are, I think you'll pack it out.
Oh, I know that. Yes. I'll tell you, I think like this format that we're on right now is an absolute blessing, and it's a miracle. And that during the last, year and a half or so that we've had access to this kind of connection, this kind of community, I can't imagine how many of us would have made it through. So this is wonderful. It does, however, fatigue you after a while. And there's just so much more to be gained by, and I always say this, like I work an entire year to make sure that the summit is the single best professional development event that any of my doctors and their staff come to every single year. But the best stuff is always at the fire pit afterwards, or in the hallways, or when you go to lunch with someone you don't know, or you take someone out to dinner. That's where the magic happens, and that can't happen in environments like this very well. I mean, they've even structured breakout rooms and things, and good. Again, great, but it's not the same.
No, definitely
eyeball
not.
to eyeball.
No, I definitely agree. Any event I've ever been to, I do. I find that you hear content during the day, but it's when you're sitting there talking to people and reflecting on what you learned that day, that all of a sudden you start getting other people's opinions. And then you sort of go, I never thought of it that way when that speaker was talking. So everybody, when they see someone live, will take away, or even online like this, someone can listen to you talk now, 10 people will hear 10 different things. But if the 10 of them are then talking at a restaurant afterwards, they're going to reflect on what they learned. And I think
and create something even more. Well, that's the mastermind. It really is. But imagine how transformational a meeting can be. In 2013, a podiatrist in Australia said, I'm going to fly halfway around the world to go to an event called Top Practices Summit, whatever that is. And the relationships that you built and all that happened at that meeting, I believe was important, I think, on your journey to lead you right to this day, in my opinion. Would you agree?
Oh, totally. It totally changed the way. At the time, I was writing It's No Secret There's Money in Podiatry. I was most of the way through it, but there was something missing. I couldn't pinpoint what the something missing was. So when I saw your event, I said to my wife, I'm going to go to Nashville. I think it took 30 hours to get there. So I was pretty tired when I got there. And I pretty much arrived, and bang, it was the next morning. So I didn't give myself a day in between so I didn't realize how tired I was going to be. But yeah, the people I met, Peter Wishney, the Foster boys, there were so many people I met on that first meeting that are now really, really close friends. And you've been able to stay in touch with them through social media, and we've all become part of each other's lives. And because of that, if I've ever had a question on something, and I might pose a question on social media, those people that I connected with way back then are the ones that will either send you a private message.
Yeah.
They are now friends. When was it 2019? I went to a podcasting conference in, where was it? I forgot
If
where
I
it
had
was.
to guess, I thought you were in Atlanta.
It
I
was.
might be wrong.
Yes. Yeah. I'm glad one of us remember. It was in Atlantic City. And while I was there,
Oh, Atlantic City, which is different from Atlanta, of course.
yeah, Atlantic City.
Atlantic City, yeah.
So I can edit that out. The video will say yes. So in 2019, I went to Atlantic City. And then when I was there, before I got there, Peter Wishney said, "Oh, I hear you're going to be going to this podcast conference." And I said, yeah, I am. He goes, "Oh, I'll see you there." He went out of his way to come and meet me and spend a couple of days with me because we hadn't seen each other for a couple of years. So that's the friendships I think you meet at live events. But your event is a little bit different because you have a mastermind group and everything leads towards that one event. You just do this one massive event each year. But what was the thinking behind, well, actually, before I go to that, when you did your first summit, how many people were at the first one?
20.
Okay, and it's just growing from there.
5 of them came from one practice, Mary Beth Crane's practice, actually.
Okay, so
20. Yeah, we
when
had
you had
20.
Did you think it was ever going to be as big as what it is? Or do you think, okay, 20 is good, maybe we can get this to 100 one day?
No, I thought it was going to be as big as what it is. That's always been my plan. I mean, I knew that podiatry was deeply underserved. And I'm not a podiatrist. I have worked with them now for over 16 years, and I've had some wonderful things happen. I mean, it's been the single most rewarding experience of my professional career, and I had a long corporate career before that. And culminating in a way in 2019, I was, by votes of podiatrists all around the world, actually was inducted into the Podiatry Hall of Fame. And I didn't even know I was eligible. And so it's been a deeply rewarding
I did.
experience for me to do that. Yeah, I did. Oh, yeah. Well, thank you for the vote.
I knew it was coming up. It was, I was contacted by them and they said, "Oh, Rem doesn't know this." And they told me what they were doing. They said, "We need people to write some testimonials or tell us a little story because it's going to be in the main article when it comes out." And I went, "Yeah, not a problem." And it was funny. I think I had not spoken to you a lot, but we'd done some emails backwards and forwards around the same time. And I'm thinking, oh, he doesn't know. He's got no idea. How amazing is this going to be when you get called up? And there's be very few non-podiatrists in the Podiatry Hall of Fame.
About 15 over time, and certainly no one in the marketing side of things or anything that we've done. I mean, it's humbling and deeply gratifying. It's the biggest honor professionally that I've ever received, because I didn't pay for it. I didn't lobby for it. I didn't know I was eligible. It was by vote of podiatrists that have known me and worked with me for all these years. And so, that group of people that you talk about are the beautiful part about top practices is it's not for everybody by any stretch of the imagination. There are so many podiatrists, and there's a small percentage that think, "Oh, I'm too cool for that. I know more than everybody else," and they don't, but I can't help them. And there's a very large group that are hard to reach. They just think it's all terrible and it's always awful and you don't understand. And then there's this group of people that believe that they could have a practice that runs like a top, that has a reception room and treatment rooms filled with the kind of patients that they want every day, that there's a pathway that you can follow and a system. And when they get together, something greater is created, which is why from the very first day I named, you just become a member of Top Practices for a small monthly fee. And I named it the Mastermind Group, which of course, I didn't come up with. That's the great Napoleon Hill.
Yeah.
It's principle number 2 in his 17 principles of success. And, find a mastermind alliance. And so those people that you met, and by the way, Tyson, you met me at that summit too. And,
Yeah, I know.
you didn't mention it, but
Well, I
I'll
thought
say
that was a
this,
given. I thought it was a given that we met each other then.
but it's a good story though, because like you're one of those people that shows up and by the time you leave, half the room. I mean, you're really good at that. You have that skill set. Um, you introduced yourself to me at the meeting, and that was all because you knew this guy's running a very large meeting at the Gaylord Hotel in Nashville. He really doesn't need me bugging him at
Yeah.
all. And so then what happened was after the end of that conference is everybody's getting on planes and you got nowhere to go because your plane's not leaving until the next day or maybe a day after, I don't know.
Yeah, I stayed
And
the extra day.
so you were there, you were
Mm.
just there, and you were not insinuating yourself on anything. And I said to Diane, this guy flew all the way from Australia to this meeting. Let's invite him out and you hit the town with us that night. And that's when we really got a chance to get to know each other. And I realized then, I thought, I like Tyson. This could be good. And you joined the mastermind group, and and we collaborated for a very long time. And it's been a blast to know you.
Yeah, the thing I liked about it, well, the advice I give to people is when you go to an event is be present. I've seen people that'll arrive
I know.
half an hour before the event starts. They rock in, and the event might finish at 4 p.m. and at 3 p.m. you can see their bags are at the back of the room, and they're wheeling their bags out straight after the event. And I'm going, it's such a missed opportunity. I like to get there a day early, because you're going to meet people prior to the event. That if it's a large event, more than likely, people that are in the bar are probably going to be at the event, and you can tell. And then stay at least the day afterwards, because there's always so you're not in a rush to go. Because usually when the event finishes, everybody's a lot more talkative. They're like, now they're relaxed and they let loose a little bit more. And so sometimes you can meet a lot of people straight afterwards. But I always think the next day too is give yourself a day. Don't rush back to work. Is take in everything that you learn, and what are the top 2 or 3 things you really got from this that you want to apply to your business, and spend that day
That is
thinking about it.
that is a massive tip. I learned that from Peter Wishney. Always
I probably did too.
leave either the next day or the day after, because, and especially if you brought a team of people with you, find the spot and compare notes, build the things, say, okay, what are the actionable items that we're going to really do when we go back and make the list and prioritize it? That is so much more valuable. Now, by the way, that's when you're going to a good meeting. If you're just going to a meeting where you're getting credits and nothing's happening, well, then, get out of there as soon as you can, because you're not getting any benefit from that. But it's the good meetings, like ours and like many others, that are filled with people that are, really thinking forward and proactively. But they're hanging out too, and you'll see them in the bar. And that's when you can really get some of the best tips. And for goodness sakes, always get at least 3 names and email addresses and phone numbers of people that could then join you later in an accountability group or a mastermind of your own that you just pull together and, utilize a system like this or something else and work together on. And try to find the ones that are really kind of aligned with you, that are like-minded. It's a great tool, a tip.
Yeah, well, I was in the UK, in Liverpool, in 2019 as well. And I remember when I was at that event, we did the same thing. The event, the 2-day event finished, it might be 3, I think it was 2 days. That finished, and did the same thing. I just sat down afterwards. I'm going to spend some time just to take it all in. But it was probably, well, actually, it wasn't the straight after the event. I was getting a lift with someone back to their place. So I stayed at their place that night. But then I went to Oxford the next day, and I just gave myself the day break. Didn't do any tours, did nothing. I just wanted to take in what I had learned over that couple of days. But what I think was important, when I was actually at the event, I sat back and I was talking to someone. I said, "What's the dynamics of the room?" And they went, "What do you mean?" I went, "Well, you have a look at the people who like marketing." Because the event I was at, there was marketing and there was medical stuff, technical stuff. I said, all the sporty people, I said, are all going to congregate. They're all going to find each other. I said, and all the marketing people that love marketing, watch them, they were all going to find each other. I said, and all the people who are there just so they can tick a box to say continue education, they will all find each other. I said, and when you look at them, I said, walk past and just eavesdrop on the conversation. And you'll hear the sporting guys are talking about the sports lectures that were on and what they took away from the talk. You get the marketing group or the business people, and you can hear them talking about new ideas. Then you go past ones that they're just ticking the box, and they're talking about Jerry Springer.
Yeah.
what they saw on TV last night. I didn't even read the front page of the paper this morning. Oh, isn't the world terrible? And I'm going,
yeah.
Isn't that interesting that they wonder why their businesses sometimes aren't as good as what it could be, because they're not hanging around the right people.
Jim Rohn said it the best of anybody I've ever heard. You're the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. And that really is the principle of the mastermind. I mean, Napoleon Hill is the one that, again, he wrote the second principle was, mastermind with like-minded individuals. Because the thing is, we're not always on, and we're not always having our best day, even though it's one of my goals. We aren't always doing that. And sometimes, without you even noticing it, events will conspire that can really knock you off the rails. And sometimes literally it can be for a very long period of time, years, that you don't even notice that you lost your mojo. But when you're with when you're connected to another group of like-minded people, then you share your experience, your inspiration, your motivation, your intelligence, your ideas, your strategies, and then you borrow back and forth from each other. And then what he says is something greater is created, and that is the mastermind. It's something more. And when you have, in top practices, there's probably, any given month, there's as many as 500 doctors that are really just listening and engaging with this. I don't have that kind of participation in our monthly meetings, but I have that kind of follow through, listen. And generally I try to kind of curate those. So we're very specific on a particular topic and just sharing great ideas. The number of ideas that come by me in my chair, talking to people like I do every month, it's astounding. I just write them all down, and I manage to pull them together. And then it's just something greater is created. But my favorite thing is when someone shares a really great idea, someone takes that idea and then improves it and then shares it back. And then the person that originally shared it said, "That's awesome." And I mean, that is when this is really, that's when it's really just the symphony is playing in perfect harmony. And I don't think I would not have the business that I had many years ago. I participated in a mastermind group with Ben Glass, Tom Foster, Dave Freeze, Mike Capuzzi, Bob Battle. These are names very few people know. You know a few of them.
Yeah.
And that group of people, we were in the kind of the beginning stages of all of our different companies. I can remember Tom, one of the questions, he said he felt like the kid in the group. He said, "Do I need an accountant?" I mean, that was where Tom was at one time. Now he's got this multi-million-dollar digital agency with its own special proprietary software. "Do I need an accountant?" We're like, "Yes, Tom, get an accountant." And that it all grew from that. So I know there's no way that top practices would have become what it is if I had not had access to like-minded individuals that were working their own plan and doing things. And they often say, if you have a problem that's really bothering you and you can't seem to solve it, go help someone else solve their problem. And somehow it unlocks things. And all of a sudden you're like, well, there's a solution for me as well. So there's nothing like staying connected. And you have to make a point of it, because the weeks go by, the months go by, the years go by, and we get out of the habit of this. It's just like any other kind of program. Meet regularly. And Tyson, can I keep talking about masterminds for a second?
Yeah, definitely.
So I mean, like, I have one, right? You sign up. And
before you go any further, if somebody's listening, some people might go, "What's the difference between a mastermind group and an accountability group?"
Okay, fair enough. Well, I mean, I imagine you have a distinction that you'd like to make there. So why don't you make it? And I'll
Yeah,
I'll
no,
let
okay.
you lead
Well,
on that. Yeah.
in my head, I look at an accountability group is you might give it a small group of people, and you're really just setting what's your goal for this week, this month, whatever it is, and you're saying that you're going to get it done. And then at the end of that month, you will share what you got done, what you didn't get done, and maybe why. And you'll get a little bit of feedback from the group, and then you'll reset the goal for the next month. So that's how I look at an accountability group. A mastermind group to me is bringing together a group of minds with a like-minded goal, but you really want to feed off of them to try and find ideas on where maybe you should be heading. And by listening to them, again, when they say you can't see your own bald spot, thank God.
Well, so no comment. So no, that's a great distinction, and I do see that. But so there's a mastermind group like the one that I run. But there's so many other. I mean, Napoleon Hill talks about this. So you can also have now in my mastermind group, it's all podiatrists with
Yeah.
very few exceptions, and they're very in sync with their particular business. But those same people are also in local mastermind groups, some of them with people across the country that are in with professionals or business people that aren't in their area at all, and they gain a lot of benefit from that. In a group like that, I think you're better off to be 7 members or less, because then you can all know each other and you can learn from each other. And Napoleon Hill, in his book, he's got one book called Grow Rich with Peace of Mind, which is a book he wrote near the end of his life. That he has a short chapter, but he kind of lays out exactly how to run a mastermind group.
Yeah.
Because it's like if you and I were to start our own local, our small 7-member mastermind group, you and I might be the founding members, and we would invite others in, and potentially they might invite others in, but we always hold the rights to say at any time, you're out, because you can have all the politics can happen in anything. And really, this is a very
Yeah.
specific thing we're trying to do. So you control it. But you can be in a mastermind alliance with your spouse or your significant other. That is the most important relationship that any of us have. We're with them more than anything, and it contributes. Napoleon Hill talks about this all the time. It contributes so much to your if that's not in good condition, everything else is harder. So to gain a mastermind alliance in a way with them, which I know you have, Tyson, and I have that, and I wouldn't trade that for anything. Here's another one though. You can get into a mastermind alliance with your better self. You can turn to your better self at any time and say, hey, when I do this every day, I talk to my subconscious mind, which is my better self, in my opinion. And it's an enormous ally to me, an enormous ally. And in Napoleon Hill, if you're going to get any of Napoleon Hill's books, I would get Grow Rich with Peace of Mind. And I go to his foundation and get The Keys to Success, the 17 Principles of Personal Achievement by Napoleon Hill. Those are really good. Think and Grow Rich, his original book,
Yeah.
it was written in the 30s. It's wonderful, but it's archaic in that, it's to our modern ears, it's a little harder to read, a little denser, but some of these other modifications, there's one, if you can ever get it, called What Would Napoleon Hill Do? I think it's out of print, but you might be able to find it. That is a brilliantly edited book.
Okay.
That I think it's remarkable. But it talks about, get in a mastermind alliance with yourself, turn to your better self, because you always know. You know this. Every time you ask anybody a question, you already know the answer. You just want to get validated or
But you
hear
just
it from
hope,
somebody
and
else.
sometimes you're hoping they're going to give you a different answer. My better
I
self
know.
is telling me I should do this. I know that
Yeah.
my better self is right. My evil self is also in the group, but we've had to try and boot him out, but he keeps turning up for the meetings. So then you ask somebody else, because you're undecided between your better self and your worse self. And you're hoping, in your head, you're thinking, agree with the worse self so I can tell the better self that he was wrong. But then they don't.
You always know. You always know the right thing to do. You always know what you should do. You do. You just don't want to listen to yourself. So get in the habit of developing a mastermind alliance with yourself. And then the last one that I'll mention is you can get into a mastermind alliance with the greatest minds that exist, because they all wrote books. Read their books. Listen, anytime I talk to anybody who's, in my opinion, a success, And there's a lot of ways to define that. They always ask they always say, hey, what's the book you read? What are you reading now? What book can you recommend? It's endless. And you'll never ever finish all the incredible books that you could read. So ask your friends and get into Mastermind Alliance with them. They will talk to you every day.
Yeah. And it's one of those things too about constantly feeding yourself with good information. Yeah. If all you do is watch the news and read the newspaper, you're getting a lot of negativity and that affects you. But if you are, like some people say, I don't like reading. Well, listen to audiobooks, listen to podcasts, listen to this episode a couple of times. So it's try and find friends that when you leave, you feel better for seeing them, not when you leave, you go, oh, thank God that's over. They're so draining. I went to a workshop a couple of weeks ago, and it was a tradies workshop. So I got a friend who's a business coach, and all he works with, do you call them tradies? Blue collar.
I don't know what that is.
Blue collar. Yeah. Electricians, plumbers,
Oh,
carpenters.
okay, sure.
Yeah. So we call them tradies.
I don't know the term, but okay.
Yeah. Or blue collar workers. And so he used to do business coaching for everybody. And then all of a sudden he found his niche. He narrowed it down to tradies. So whenever he puts an event on, he always asks for one to come along to it. So every time I go, I'm just amazed with what I learn. And I'm sitting around a table, and there were two guys that had a construction company. Next to me was a plumber. Then there was a carpenter, and the other might have been a pool shop. And when you said earlier on that someone will give advice, but then somebody else will twist it a little bit, and then all of a sudden they'll go, wow, that is just absolutely amazing. Because they would ask us a question about their business when we were going around the table. And the question they would ask, we would offer advice, but then somebody else would ask the same question, but slightly different. But the person who asked the same question before that is now giving them advice. And I sit there and just go, isn't it really funny that we don't listen to our deeper self? You'll hear somebody else tell it to you, but then you don't realize you're actually saying the same thing back to them.
Yeah, it's something. And I'll tell you too, a little advice when you're in a mastermind meeting like that, watch for this in yourself and watch for it in other people. If the group is trying to, I call this mastermind, if they're trying to work with an individual and the person's, they're on the seat, everybody's trying to talk to them about this, that person will often say, oh, no, you don't understand. And then they explain it all and that other stuff. And oh, no, we would not. When that starts, I call it every single time because, and when you talk to me in one of those meetings, the only thing I will say is, tell me more about that. Let me know. Yeah. I mean, I'm still having the internal thing about, well, yeah, I know I tried that or whatever. But when I get that feeling, I think to myself, and then Dave Freese taught me this, lean in harder. When you feel resistance to what someone's saying to you, listen more closely, because that's like a little blinker that says this might be just the thing you need to hear. And remember this, when you leave that meeting, you can always do whatever you want to do. You don't have to listen to anybody in that meeting. Do what you think is best, but try to learn from everybody and don't shut them down.
Yeah, well, they said that at the meeting. At the meeting, he actually put a big slide up. He said, we're now going to break into these groups and we're going to talk about, so what part of your business are you having a problem with at the moment? So here I was, I'm a podiatry business coach. I'm at a table with tradies. And I said to him, this is what problem I'm having with them. And I explained it to him. The advice they gave me was fantastic. Yeah. And I'm there going, I never thought of it that way. And he had a big slide up and it said, if anybody at your table says, yeah, but he said, feel free to pull out your nail gun and just remind him you're not allowed to say that, because
pull out your nail gun. That is scary.
Yeah.
No, I get it though. And that's brilliant. And by the way, every single one of those people is an entrepreneurial business owner.
Yes.
There's so much to be learned from them. I think that's great that you have been to those. That's wonderful.
I think it's good. And I did a solo episode on this just about learning outside of your profession.
Yeah. I
remember, and I think I'll give Larry that I met at
Larry Weinstein.
Yes. And now I think I'd met Larry 2 or 3 times at your events.
Yep.
And all of a sudden I said to Larry one day, so Larry, where's your podiatry business? And he goes, I'm not a podiatrist. And I went, what do you mean you're not a podiatrist? He says, oh, I'm an accountant. And I went, you're an accountant? Why is an accountant at a podiatry conference? He said, I learn more here than I do at any accounting business or conference I've ever been to. And he goes, and this group gives me a complete different perspective on marketing, which I then take back to my practice. And I went, that is amazing. And I've mentioned Larry so many times.
Larry's fantastic. I love Larry. And yeah, he's a stealth bomber when he's in the room. Nobody knows, but Larry is serious. By the way, he has an extremely niched accounting practice. He only works with people that are in trouble with the IRS. That's the Internal Revenue System service here in the U.S. That you know, the federal taxing authority.
Yeah, tax office.
And his whole thing is to get you out of trouble with them if you're in trouble. It's a real specific niche. I've learned so much from Larry. And and I met Larry. Larry met me through Ben Glass and the lawyers, because Larry was paying attention to Dan Kennedy, of course, and Ben was always a big fan of Dan Kennedy. So it's just, you know, it all just comes down.
Well, it's funny because
connections.
Dave Free's event, the Business Black Ops, that's the last time I saw you. It was 2019 at Dave's event. And I remember, I think I had been at your event, seen Larry, figured out Larry was an accountant. But then I'm at Dave Free's event the following weekend in Arizona, and who's there? Larry is sitting up at the front of the room.
Yep.
And I went, that you can learn a lot from Larry.
No kidding.
But just don't get any dress sense from Larry. If Larry offers you any fashion tips, that's the one thing you can just close your ears and walk away. If you want fashion tips, talk to Tom Foster.
Talk to Tom Foster. Don't talk to me. And Tyson, dare I say, don't talk to you.
Come on. Yeah, I wouldn't talk to me either.
Tom Foster, no, he's got it going on. Yeah.
You know, you see those
fashion
TV shows
in every way.
It'll have the announcement that says dressed by, and it'll have the name of the company. If I had one underneath me, be dressed by my wife.
Yeah.
Because I'll be getting ready and she'll just look. I say, hey, well, look, she'll look at me and go, so you're really actually going out like that, eh? And I go, what's wrong with this? And I'll say, well, the thing I was wearing it on TV the other night and you said that looked fine. She said, yeah, it looked fine on him.
Right.
It doesn't look fine on you. Go get changed. So I'll listen to my wife.
Mastermind. That's help.
So where do people start? Say somebody's listening to this now, they go, I've never been in a mastermind group. So where do I start to get involved? Or how can I don't know who I should be talking to. My friends are negative. Where do you reckon they should kick off?
Well, so like I said, I think the very first thing you could do is read or consume that kind of information. Look, one of the things when I initiate and I go through the process of onboarding new top practices members, I always want to know how much they consume the political opinion news that has just taken over people's lives.
Yeah.
Because my goal is to get them out of that as soon as possible. There is nothing there to be gained. There's no information, there's no help. Those people are entertainers that are making money, and the more outrageous thing they can say, the more money they can make. So that's one of Napoleon Hill's principles, the accurate thinking. Do your own thinking, don't outsource it to other people. So they start by, I would suggest, get a copy of Keys to Success, the 17 Principles of Personal Achievement by Napoleon Hill. Get a copy of Grow Rich with Peace of Mind. I would suggest you come to the Top Practices website, and under resources up at the top, you'll find the must-read list, Rem's must-read list. And that is it's a very extensive list of books that I think are great that anybody should read, not just my podiatry members. And then look around. I mean, attend a meeting. I've got one coming up in Las Vegas, October 8, 9, 10. You are welcome to join us. When's your next thing, Tyson?
My next thing is, I'm actually doing my next group thing that I'm doing is a 3-day marketing retreat in Cairns. So, but it's only for small people. It's going to be a group of 10 people. And what's interesting, I've got a group called the Podiatry Business Spartans. That's my membership group. And what is really funny, as soon as I said, oh, I'm going to put on this marketing thing, straight away, five of the Spartans booked in straight away.
That's always the way it is.
Same as when I ran my audio marketing workshop. As soon as I said, I'm going to do this small marketing workshop of audio marketing for 6 people, 5 of the Spartans booked in straight away. And the only reason the other ones didn't was because it's just the weekend didn't suit. So that group though is getting, they are feeding off of each other so well. Yeah. Just now, even on the Facebook page, someone will ask a question in the group and everybody else is diving in and answering it way before I even see it. So you can just see that, and they're becoming really good friends, really good connections that they will have for their whole career, for their lifetime. But I definitely say anybody who's in the United States who's listening to this, if you don't go to the Top Practices Marketing Summit, the 8th, 9th, and 10th of October, you're nuts. And it's around the same, it's in October every year. So yeah, to me, that's just a no-brainer. If you want to know more about marketing, is go to the Marketing Summit.
Yeah, and next year I think we'll have some other events that we're going to probably do as well. But and then you can always join. Just come to the Top Practices website and find out about the Mastermind group. It's easy. We don't lock you in. There's no contracts. If it's working, you stay. If it isn't, you don't. And yeah, it's just great. I have people who've been with me for 16 years, and they can leave tomorrow if they wanted to. And it's interesting because you join because you want to be more profitable. You want to have less stress. You want to make sure you just want to have the business that you knew you can, but they forgot to teach you anything when you were in podiatry school, and all the essential things. People join for that, and then they achieve that, and then they stay for something very different. And you referenced it. We are swimming in an ocean of negativity everywhere you turn. It is absolutely, our culture has become crass. It's just the role models in so many cases are terribly negative, and so people would much rather spend their time in something that might enrich them, both physically and spiritually, mentally. And if you find something like that, you want to stick with that. And the Mastermind group affords that to people. That's one thing. We are a no whine zone. We are a get it done zone. And we've never had a single discussion about any of the rest of this stuff. There's time and a place for it. But I stopped paying attention to any. By the way, I do know the news. Okay, I'm not actually. I don't know if you're in the United States, I think there's a great little email thing you can sign up for called 1440 Digest. It was created by some people that were sick and tired of all the opinion and negative, really confrontational stuff. And it's 5 minutes every morning. You get an email Monday through Friday that just says, "Here's the news that you might want to know."
Yeah.
And but then there's all this really cool stuff, like stories about this thing that went through our solar system, and what was it? And I mean, I get on rabbit trails that are so interesting. We're building this space station. I mean, just other things. It's hard to even remember, but they're interesting life stories like you would read in Smithsonian Magazine or things like that. Smithsonian, I've subscribed to Smithsonian Magazine. That's the Smithsonian Institution in the US. And for 45 years, I've been a subscriber of that magazine. Any magazine that the lead story is about black peppercorns, that's our main story. I'm like, I can go with this, because by the way, they have a fascinating history. I love stuff like that. I don't need to hear what the latest Yahoo in Washington, D.C. thinks about this, because but I vote, and I'm not uninformed, but I don't outsource my thinking to anyone. And I hang out with people like you just mentioned, my buddy Tom, our buddy Tom, Dave Fries, other people. You are the average of the 5 people you associate with the most. So if that's the case, create a small group of like-minded people. And if you're going to start your own mastermind group, do it with people that you think nah, I don't know if they'd even want to be in a group with me. That's who you should be targeting, not people you're like, oh, I definitely know I could get so and so in there,
Yeah.
because you're shooting low. Shoot into people, and you'll be amazed because they'd be like, I'd love to do that with you. And other people say I'm too busy. They have all kinds of reasons, but you get three people that are starting to do what Tyson talked about, and in that you can incorporate, accountability really well with that. And I would say I've got members in top practices that are in weekly accountability meetings, WAMs we call them, weekly accountability meetings, where they each meet together. This is what I said I was going to do this week. Did I do it? Did you do it?
Yeah.
And boy, that drives them forward.
We did the same
It's
thing
great.
in the Spartans group, because we do like a weekly Q&A session, just using Zoom. And then one of them mentioned something about, oh, I wish I was more accountable. And I said, well, why don't we take one of our Monday sessions? We'll turn it into a monthly accountability group. So that's what we do. We get on there, and only the people that are in that group, we share, because not every month does somebody jump in, but then I'll set up a messenger thing on Facebook, and I'll put in there just to the group who was there what we said we were going to do. And then every Monday, even though we still do the Q&A, I don't bring up the accountability when we're online, but I do post something onto that page saying, what have you done? Yeah, how close are you to achieving that goal or that task that you were going to do? That's worked really well. But the other part we started doing, one of the girls in the group kept asking about, reminding herself what her purpose is. So every morning now she posts into the group, what's your purpose? And everybody, what's your purpose for the day? And nearly everybody in the group now is actually commenting underneath what their plan is for the day. And I can see that being really powerful as well.
Oh yeah, and it just helps you keep going because, like I said, it's so easy. Jeff Olson wrote an incredible book called The Slight Edge, which when you join Top
Great
Practice,
book.
I send you a copy. I send you my book, Peter's book, Tina's book, and Jeff Olson's book, and that is incredible. All he says is, be here 1 year from now, immersed in the process. That means just don't quit. And don't try to bite off too much. Do the small things every day that are easy to do and they're easy not to do. So are you going to walk today? Well, then walk. If you aren't, then when are you going to replace it? Because it's only 2 or 3 days of not walking, and now we're done. You might have done it for a long time, and now you don't do it anymore. And it's brilliant. The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. Pick that up too.
You told me about that book. I read it, and I think one of the things I took away from that book is you don't need to do 100% more than the other podiatrist down the road. Just do 10% more, but do it in so many different areas. And that's what he's talking about, that slight edge. You don't need to do a dramatic change. It's just doing these small changes in different areas more than what everybody else is doing. And that slight edge philosophy, your business just grows.
Yeah, top performers do seemingly insignificant things, but they do them every single day. And they don't quit, they don't stop, and they accomplish incredible amounts.
Yeah.
Some great stories in the beginning that kind of illustrate the point. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying I could talk to you all day, but I am looking at the time. So is there anything you want to, around this subject of Mastermind, just to drive a final point home before we wrap up?
Do it. You've heard us talk about this. We've testified to the benefits. If you're in the US, I have a way to do it. If you're in Australia, Tyson has a way to do it. If you're in a town or a city, there are people there that you could do this with. These books are something you can go to Amazon and get for under $10 a book. Do it. Don't sit there and think, oh, that was awesome. I think I should really, I'm going to put that on my list of things. Do it.
Yeah.
Do it now. Take action. And that's, yeah, just do it. I tell you, without one of the, and Tyson, you'll attest to this, but one of the things when you lead a group, a mastermind accountability group, as I do and you do, it's the little secret is it's better for you than it is for anybody else, because I'm eating, breathing, drinking this every single day, and you just can't get off. It's very hard to get knocked off your game when you're doing it every day with others and leading it. It just helps reinforce it. But if you don't have connection to other winners, there are so many other not winners that would love to talk to you and take up your time and commiserate and bring you down. And, Jeff Olson says it's only the top 5% that do this, that bend their success curve up. The other 95% bend it down. Napoleon Hill says it's only 2% of us that are living these lives. Everybody else is just getting through the week. I don't get through the week. Sunday night comes and I think, Monday, I get to go back to work. Yes, this is great. And that's where you want to be, no matter what you do.
Yeah, I must agree. I do enjoy what I do. There's some, like even doing the podcast, doing the one-on-one coaching, it's fun. And I get a lot out of it. And when I'm talking to one podiatrist, there's certain things I'm talking to them about and I go, oh, geez, that's a good idea. I'm writing it down because I know that's going to be very useful for the next person that I talk to. And
I'll tell you two other things. One is I got a book called Podiatry Prosperity, which you can pick up at my website or on Amazon. If you're a podiatrist, you need to own that book. And while you're buying mine, buy Peter Wishny's, which is called the Podiatry Business Solution, and get Tina Del Buono's book called Truths from the Trenches.
I don't have Tina's. I've got the other two. I've got your book and I have Peter's book, but I don't have Tina's. So I have to get a hold of that.
You have to get a hold of it. It's stories as a practice manager and other people. She wrote a really well written book. It's really good. And then I have a podcast too. It's called Prosperity and Something Greater. It's not about podiatry. It's not about marketing or management. It's about prosperity. And Tyson was just a recent guest on that podcast.
I'm going to look up the episode was.
I think it's 29 or 30 is what yours is. It's either 29 or 30. And
you're probably
so
right.
Listen to Tyson, for goodness sakes. It's a great.
I listened to it. I listened to it a couple of weeks back, or when you sent it to me. I listened to it while I was going for a walk, and I finished and I went, damn, I was good.
yeah, I know. I listened to it and I thought that was better than I thought it was.
Dragged. I know, because when we did it, I went, oh, I really enjoyed that. It was fun because I always enjoy talking with you. But when I actually listened to it, when I was doing my walk, you dragged some things out of me that I hadn't thought about. And when I listened back to it, I was going, and I've been thinking about what you dragged out of me. I have been thinking about since then. And this is the power of connecting with other people, because we've all got stuff in our head that we don't realize is there. It's all locked away and there's all this other stuff there, and how to smoke meat and making the right toast. But sometimes you need to talk to somebody else who asks you the right questions, and all of a sudden it just brings out these answers. And I listened to it and went, oh, was that really me? That was good.
Well, what's funny, Tyson, is I also thought, well, that was really good. And I was, I really enjoyed it and it was really good. And then when then we edited it and sent it out. And when I listened to it, I had the exact same experience where I thought, gosh, Rem, you really, because I have 7 typical questions that I always ask everybody, but I took you a couple other directions, and primarily because I know you so well. And that's where all the gold, and there's a lot of gold in that podcast that we did. And it all came from a couple of those other directions. So I patted myself in the back for sending you down a path, and you, man, you were great. So I enjoyed it immensely.
The only problem with the episode was my microphone wasn't working. I'm listening to it, and I'm going, oh my God. I said, you are a podcaster, and that's how you sound on somebody else's podcast. But I got over that within a couple of minutes and went, forget about how I sound, just listen. Let's just have a conversation.
And let me tell everybody else, by the way, when you listen to this, it won't even occur to you that there's any issue with his microphone. This is because he's a big time podcaster. He knows what he's doing, and his mic wasn't working. So he didn't have his usual, what's in front of him right now. I
didn't have this microphone.
He didn't have the radio voice thing. And it's a great recording. So don't worry about that.
So, So I want to thank you for having me on your podcast too, and actually dragging that out of me. So Rem, thank you for coming on the Podiatry Legends podcast, sharing your wisdom.
Thanks for asking me.
And I'm sure we will talk again very, very soon. So thank you very much.
Thanks, buddy. Talk to you later.